Hi everyone, it's Sarah Kitlowski. Thank you for being here. Hope everyone is having a great week and hanging in there. What a crazy experience this has been. I don't know about you, but I'm really grateful to be part of a community of strong, supportive people, strong, supportive women, helping get through this together. So before I start, I just want to say thank you to Shannon and the team at Voice and Visibility and their partners for asking me to share my journey with you all tonight. My story is definitely a story of learning from others, and I hope something tonight that I share sparks something in you. So I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm an only child. My father is a teacher and a bagpiper, and my mother is an artist who also does brilliant marketing and public relations. So I grew up in a household where curiosity and creativity were valued. I did pretty well in school, but did fall into the trap that's not uncommon to many girls. Somewhere along the way, I decided, or maybe I was told, that I wasn't good at math or technology and building stuff or science. And I never really had a reason to challenge that. I just accepted it as true. So by the time I got to college, I kind of had already limited myself and was looking for a degree where just being smart and creative and a little bit rebellious was valued. And I stumbled into philosophy. I got my undergraduate degree in philosophy, and I did that with some really incredible students and professors from all different walks of life. It was a really diverse group of people who deeply influenced my worldview. And at that point, I thought, my eyes are open and I'm ready to see the world. However, there really isn't a clear pathway for a job in philosophy. Not too many companies are looking to hire a staff philosopher these days, but I could write. So I ended up using those skills to get a job as a technical writer. So here's the deal. Philosophy is basically writing in depth about things you don't understand anyway, so it was kind of a natural fit at the beginning. I spent a few years working as a technical writer, preparing complicated test reports and technical documents for large companies looking to get their electronics ready for market. And a funny thing happened along the way. As I'm writing these technical reports, it started sinking in. The technical stuff, it started to click. And I started to understand not only how the technology worked, but how some aspects of the bigger market worked. And then, as I was working there, I was approached by a friend of my mother who was looking specifically for a technical writer, but wanted to hire me because of my degree in philosophy, which for me was like, bingo. So I went and I interviewed, and honestly, I was terrified. I had no idea really what the job was, or if I was anywhere near qualified to do it. I was pretty sure that I wasn't. And I was face to face with two very strong, smart, professional women who they radiated an air of business confidence that I had never seen before. I was terrified, but despite my almost sheer terror, something in my gut told me to go for it. So I took the leap and started working for the team as an analyst. And it was the first time in my career that I ever scared myself in a good way. And I'm really glad I did, because what it meant for me was I got to work up close and personal with some of the most brilliant women that you've probably never heard of, but who have changed the world that we all live in. Getting the opportunity to witness that up close and personal was life-changing. So the woman who founded the company, Lisa Welshman, she is actually one of the first webmasters back in the early days of the internet, way before the internet was everywhere and everything. So she had studied philosophy and taught herself to code while she was pregnant, and became one of the first webmasters of one of the first huge websites, back before websites were huge. And because she'd been working in IT and thinking about IT and governance and operations around technology longer than most people, she became this visionary strategist and a thought leader. So in addition to just being a powerhouse of a thinker, she's female and Black in a predominantly white male dominated career, and it didn't matter to her. So she has also built a team of like scary smart people, many of whom are also women in this field. And it was working for her and the rest of that team that I first really got what it meant to dare to be just bold in business and challenge assumptions, and not just outside assumptions like whether a woman can be a leader in IT, but deep internal assumptions about myself and about what it meant to really try, to really push and really apply myself. And it started to not matter on some level what I thought I was and wasn't good at. So when the recession hit in 2008 and 2009, their consulting business changed, and I left the company and I ended up moving here to sunny Florida. I was then a partner in a marketing and web company for a few years, and then began working for a larger retailer based here in the Sarasota area in their IT department. So this had been a couple of years, and at this point, gone was any fear, mostly of not knowing or being naturally good at technology, or being one of the only women in my department. I had learned that what mattered was to bring my passion, creativity, and curiosity to work with me every day. I actually ended up working in the tech sector in one form or another for over 10 years, and I thrived, and I loved my career. So after a few years, though, I realized that in order to grow with the company, I needed to grow. I needed to grow personally. So I was faced with a couple of decisions. I looked at possibly getting an advanced degree in technology, like computer science, but instead of going down that path, I did a gut check, and what I knew to be true was what I really wanted was to work in business and operational strategy. I wanted to go to business school and get an MBA. Unfortunately, I was still quote unquote bad at math. So I got the opportunity to spend a year kind of relearning high school math, geometry, trig, algebra, just to prep for the entrance exam, the GMAT. And after a year of studying, I managed to score almost exactly average in the math section. I was off the charts. Well, not off the charts, but I did really well in the verbal section. But nice average GMAT score. But instead of quitting then, something told me to go for it, knowing it was probably going to be ridiculously hard. But here's the thing, I already had to work twice as hard as some of my colleagues in IT without formal training and being a young woman in that department. So I had seen that I had some fight in me, and maybe it was time to harness that. So I signed up for the professional MBA program at USF SM, go Bulls, and committed to going to school full-time, nights and weekends, while still working full-time. So in my first finance class, the professor looked at my undergrad degree in philosophy and my profession in IT, and informed me that I didn't have the right prerequisites to take the finance class. And if I did decide to stay, I was on my own, and he probably wasn't going to be able to help me. And I stayed, and I worked insanely hard. And in a couple times I thought I needed to quit. I was in over my head, but I didn't. I hung in there. I worked harder, and I ended up getting a 98 in that class. And for those 2 years, all I did was work and go to school. I have busy days now, but nothing compares to what it was like going to school full-time while working full-time. But here's the thing, I saw what I was really made of. And side note, an MBA is a lot of math. It's like half math, but I pushed. And I just want to say, if anyone's listening to this and thinking about going back to school, particularly if you're thinking about going back to school while working full-time, hit me up. I've got tips and tricks about how to do it without completely losing your mind, and I am here for you. And if you're thinking about it, you should go for it. Anyway, so I worked really hard for a couple of years and pushed through all the times that I wanted to quit. And I went on to graduate with honors, Phi Beta Kappa with a 3.95 GPA, and ended up being awarded the Paul Webecki Award for my classmates, which was a huge honor. So in most MBA programs, students have the opportunity to work with real companies on real business projects or problems. And in my second year in a financial statements analysis class, we were introduced to Tom Gardner. He was a retired executive and seasoned entrepreneur who was working with two partners on a new wound care company called Omeza. Omeza was very much in its early stages, so I and a few other students in that class and then our final capstone class spent much of our last year of school working on the first financial forecast, business plan, competitive analysis, and pitch decks. And we presented on Omeza for our capstone project, which is the MBA equivalent to Shark Tank, and won. And that's actually a photograph of us doing that final presentation. By the time I graduated, Omeza had become a complete passion project for me. Tom's two partners, Chip Bettle and Dr. Desmond Bell, they were able to explain science and chemistry and medicine to me in a way that it clicked. I got it. And I really saw that their expertise, coupled with Tom's business expertise and the incredible proof of concept product line and the early clinical results they were seeing, all signs pointed to the fact that Omeza was destined to be something great. I knew it. I felt it in my gut. After graduating, I continued my career in IT, and I did indeed use my degree to grow in the company, but I still was doing private work for Omeza on off hours because I'd become emotionally and intellectually invested in it. And when Tom needed something, I was there on weekends and nights to help. The thing is it got in my heart and under my skin. So when Tom offered me the opportunity to become the first employee, I went ahead and I made that leap. After all, I had already kind of proven to myself that it didn't matter that I wasn't good at tech or good at math. Maybe science and medicine wasn't completely beyond me either. So on January 1st, 2018, I became employee number one, and we really started to build the company. In the last 2 years, we've now built out just a tremendous team in research and development, manufacturing, quality, marketing, regulatory affairs. We still have 2 corporate facilities, gone through 2 capital raises, are in the midst of clinical trials. And Omeza has gone from an idea to really a thriving, bustling company right on the verge of greatness. And we have an awesome team of total rock stars. And together as a team, we are on a common mission. So here's our mission. Omeza is fighting to change how wound care is done and how we, you, I, the world, looks at vulnerable skin and cures for it. The thing about skin is it's actually the largest organ in the body, and it's easy to forget that. So here's the deal. A lot of companies these days invest in creating really great, complicated, expensive treatments for chronic wounds and difficult skin conditions. These treatments are impressive innovations, and they can be pretty clever. And some do actually produce impressive outcomes as well. But Omeza's vision is different. We've been investing in developing great wound care products that aren't insanely expensive or complicated, so that advanced wound care is available to all people, regardless of their station. We want to bring advanced wound care home so that our most vulnerable patients don't have to spend so much time going back and forth to doctors. So where Omeza is at is we're in the final stages of our FDA clearance. We're about 6 to 9 months away from real commercial launch. And then COVID-19 happened. So I want you to get this. We've literally been working on how to do advanced wound care at home instead of patients having to go to a specialty clinic. And then all of our potential patients were vulnerable population anyway, as well as the rest of the world, are literally quarantined to their house. But we weren't ready in time. We are 6 months away from being ready. When the Omeza team realized what we were seeing, that the world needed what we've been working on, but we weren't ready in time, it did a couple of things. Honestly, first, it crushed us. It crushed me. I can't tell you how many nights right at the beginning, once when we were all really getting how bad this was going to be, realizing the magnitude of what it meant that we were late, we weren't ready on time, and could we have done anything different? And then we started seeing and getting messages like the one above from patients or caregivers whose doctor's appointments were canceled, or who no longer got home health, or who didn't feel safe leaving their house, going to the doctor or a hospital with a growing problem. And we saw that people were scared or stuck. And the deal is it's not just chronic wounds, it's chronic conditions. It's all of these people that have been relying upon weekly or regular visits to a hospital, leaving the house, who may be vulnerable anyway, who are just stuck. So what did that mean for the Omeza team? We can't get 6 months back, but what we can do, and what we did do, what we have done, is double down. We've worked really hard during this shutdown, safely, but we have worked hard because now we know we are heading in the right direction. It's uncharted territory, but we've never had greater confirmation that what we're doing matters. We may not ever have another quarantine, but before this all happened, we knew that we needed to do something different, and we had the opportunity to do it. And so that's our fight. See, wound care isn't a sexy area of medicine. Not a lot of people sit around talking about wound care and wound care innovations, but we do. We take it seriously. And because we know wound care, we're challenging the way things have always been done. We're taking on an area that's been ridiculously expensive and complicated, and we're redefining it. We're changing it. And that's our mission, and that's what we dare to do. The thing is, once upon a time, I thought there were many things that I just couldn't do, and it turns out I was wrong. So maybe it's not about natural talent. Maybe it's about grit and perseverance and taking a chance and daring to push through uncertainty. So for you who are listening to this right now, you've probably had a bit more time than usual to sit and look at your life lately. I gotta know, what have you been thinking about? Is it maybe true that you've been holding yourself back? That maybe you're capable of way more than you think you are? Maybe you already have all of the talents that you need, and it's about time that you go for it, whatever it is. So if you've been wondering, do I dare do the thing that I want to do, but that scares the crap out of me? I'm here to tell you, you should do it. I dare you. And you don't have to do it alone. So my story is a story of learning from others, of finding role models and leaders and following them around and learning everything I could from them, and then building teams of people on a common mission, people passionate like me. And it's also about getting to know community partners who are invaluable to a young business or an entrepreneur or somebody shifting in their career, in the same way that community it's critical to personal growth. You need help, inspiration, and motivation. So my advice is reach out to any of the people on the screen, or just come hunt me down and let's do this together. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. We are here for our first Fireside Chat with the President and COO of Omeza, Sarah Kitlowski. Sarah,
Hi, Shannon.
thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much, and thank you very much to your team for asking me to share my journey with you guys.
Well, the privilege is ours, honestly, Sarah. When we hear you speak, there are so many spectacular elements of bravery and grit in your story. So we're thrilled to share your story with our listeners. So many universal themes. So I want to begin by talking a little bit about a quote I read in a recent article about you. And quick note for our listeners, Sarah's quite humble, but she was recently featured in the Tampa Bay Business Journal 40 Under 40. And it's fair to say she's kind of crushing it down here in Sarasota. But you said in this article you won the MBA lottery ticket. Tell us about that.
Well, so why did I say that? So some folks go to business school wanting to work in one specific area of a business. Really, they're focused on finance or they want to get into market trading. But a lot of MBA folks, they've watched Shark Tank for years. They've watched the journey of these incredible entrepreneurs who have come from nothing or near nothing and built an entire company. And when you go to business school, you do get an opportunity to see all different elements of it. And I think it's a lot of people's dream to be able to work in all areas. So by being able to join Omeza at the ground floor, and really building the company from employee number one, I mean, by default, at the beginning, I was kind of doing a little bit of everything. But it's meant that I've been able to look at strategy, right or wrong, in every area of the company. And for me, I mean, I didn't realize how much I wanted to do that until I'm doing it. So every day is like, I'm so excited to be able to do everything that I'm doing. There really isn't a part of the business that I'm like, oh, manufacturing. It's like, wait, I get to learn manufacturing too. That's incredible.
Well, I loved in the talk, you referenced just that, this was your capstone project, your senior year. So take us back to, was that just all consuming? And then how did Tom Gardner, your founder, and Chip, how did they find you?
Well, so it's funny how that whole thing worked out. We actually, I don't want to use the word stalked, but chased down Tom to be able to use Omeza as our capstone. So SCORE, which is available nationwide, there's a really strong SCORE office here in Sarasota. They'd been working with USF to connect entrepreneurs and small companies with particularly a financial statements analysis class, and to use a startup company's financial pro forma in order to teach us how to really build that out, how to build out a forecast. So we had met Tom through the SCORE partnership in the fall semester. And so 6 of us worked on the first financial forecast, did market analysis just to build out the financials of it. So then in the spring semester is when the capstone project happens, and students are given an opportunity to either develop a company from scratch, their own concept, or work with an outside company. And a lot of students rightly chose an idea that they'd always had, which is fantastic. A few of us, though, when we had met Tom Gardner and Chip Bettle and saw the level that the two of them came from, I mean, Tom, I'm not going to list his resume, but he has seen the entire world of both consumer products and healthcare, and it was pretty incredible. And when we were like, wait, this is an executive from this company who's here, and then his partner Chip Bettle, he's responsible for creating a lot of the household products that we take for granted in our house. I mean, I'll just say that you wouldn't have the laundry detergent in your house that you have today if it wasn't for him. And when we saw that these two gentlemen were focusing their time on this one concept and just their resume as well as the likely trajectory, 4 of us got together and were like, look, they're rock stars. We want to learn from them. We want to spend another semester really building out what this company looks like. So we approached Tom and he said, absolutely. The other cool thing about that, though, was Tom was right about to start his first capital raise. And so whereas a lot of other students, they were using speculative numbers based upon just general market analysis or what they thought was going to happen with their new company, we were working with a live company that was doing a live capital raise. And that's kind of the other part of the MBA lottery ticket. I mean, a lot of folks have thought about what it's like to raise capital and what it takes in order to really do that and withstand the scrutiny of outside investors, even friendly investors looking at all of that. But we got the opportunity to do that. So what did Tom and Chip think? I think that they thought, well, we have 4 really energetic, passionate students who are willing to do all this heavy lifting for us for gratis. So let's go ahead and let them.
It's a win-win. Sounds like a
Right?
perfect win-win. And then, as you said in your talk, you were employee number 1, right? So
Yeah.
Did the first capital raise happen while you were still at USF in the MBA program?
Yeah, it did. So our capstone presentation was, I want to say May 5th. It was that first week, and Tom closed his first capital raise within a month of that. And so a lot of the material for the pitch deck and the underlying forecast and the competitive analysis, a lot of that was the work that we had done.
Wow. Okay, so now take us to, and this is all 2 years ago. So your business model, you've kept it kind of lean by design. Who do you have on your team now at Omeza, and why are you structured the way you are?
Well, so you know, we have an interesting team. I think everybody on the team has spent some, if not a lot, of their professional career in large companies and seen what works and what doesn't work. You know, you get a certain number of people together and there's always going to be some slush factor, some overhead, which is just the logistics of having like 100 people there, team meetings and HR and things like that. So we wanted to push it and see from a human capital perspective, what is the highest ROI we could get with a team of rock stars, which sounds like a really business consultant way of looking at things, but it's really, okay, so, you know, for instance, we just hired a PhD in chemistry, Dr. Venus Roberts, who has worked in both academia and commercial settings, and she's a powerhouse. And so I get 1 Venus, and it's the equivalent of 4 or 5 lab techs. But that also means with the smaller number of people, we're able to be more agile right now. So that's only going to work for a certain period of time, but it means right now, every decision we make is critical. Time is critical. The expenditure of our investors' capital is critical. The decisions we make from a regulatory and market perspective, all of them are critical, and we really want the entire team to back them, which means we need to have the size team that can fit in a room that you can have decision-making conversations with. So we've kind of stacked our deck with really high caliber people. And of course, it's our intention to keep doing that. But right now, we have done that on purpose in order to be able to move more quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, it makes sense. And because you're so innovative, I wanted to ask you about the point in your talk where you referenced you were 6 months away from kind of launching into the marketplace, and then COVID hits. Tell us how you are doing as a leader, and how you've had to pivot and where you are in relation to COVID and the effects it's had on your products and your company.
Whew. Well, I mean, in some ways, the way that our business handled it is not unlike what other companies are doing, right? They're trying to find the right balance of how do we keep our employees engaged and in tune with the company, and still keeping an eye on the mission while not overworking people, putting people in danger, having people feel like they need to put themselves in a risky situation just because they love the company. So we spend a lot of time figuring out what that right balance is. We spend a lot of remote hours working and figuring out, okay, I'm going to be in the building this day, so you work from home, and back and forth. We kind of did that just to sort out the logistics of it. But the other thing that I talked about, and this is still very true, is balancing the fact that, like, yes, if we could do it all over, we would take 6 months back and we would have been ready. We would be, you know, on the other side of 510K clearance and able to drop ship our products to everyone who has sat at home for 2 months looking at their leg, wondering if they're going to need an amputation right now, which is the reality of it. But the second way we dealt with it is figuring out how do we work harder and smarter with the limitations we had in hand. You know, there's that quote that says, you know, the best time to start something is yesterday. The second best time to start it is today. And that's really the approach we took. So what it looked like is our chief medical officer, Dr. Desmond Bell, he took it on himself, you know, keeping in line with our mission to find every place where telemedicine is now flourishing, every place where patient advocacy is flourishing. Anytime there's a patient that one of our OTC products, which is allowed to be distributed, could be helpful, how can he provide it to them? And how can he connect people with resources they may not know are available? And then we've also done a little bit of e-education about what things can people do and not do, not to replace medical advice, but to support people and let them know that they're not alone. So we've had a mixed response. We've done the best we can. And honestly, we have spent some time too directing people who reach out to us, who know what we're doing, but also know that our products aren't ready for them, to what are the best alternatives are for them. Because it's not about we want the patient for us. It's about we want the best of the patient, period. Whatever it takes.
That's what I think is so special about you and your team. And you've said it before, you know, wound care and the mission that you're on, it's really correlated with disparate health outcomes. So I want to pivot us and talk about, you and I have had this conversation before, how committed you are to diversity and inclusion. Tell us more about how you and your team think about diversity as it relates to your mission.
Yeah, I mean, diversity comes in a lot of forms, and it's like, what does it look like in our business internally? And then also, what does it look like in our relationship to our patient population? So I'll talk about the second one first. So if our focus is on chronic wounds are most commonly found in folks with a comorbidity, a second diagnosis like diabetes, predominantly type 2 diabetes, with lifestyle challenges as in obesity, smoking, vascular issues, vascular insufficiency, maybe limited mobility, maybe lack of access to proper nutrition. Like there are all of these correlating factors that can lead to somebody to be more likely to have a wound that won't heal on its own. And so where do you predominantly see that? You see that in folks who don't have access to top of the line Cadillac level health insurance, or they're in a remote location, so they don't have access to an advanced specialty clinic, or they don't have the support system that allows them to take care of medical issues. You find it in certain socioeconomic areas, in certain racial minorities. So it really does correlate with certain areas of the population that are underserved in a lot of ways. And it's not necessarily a political issue. It's the same issues that come up with other areas of healthcare, which is the more money you make or the better your station in life, the better healthcare you get. And so we're not trying to challenge that entire system. We're just looking at wound care and say, okay, what if that wasn't so with wound care? What if wound care was about access for all? What if it was about the most effective and affordable products to produce the most effective and affordable outcomes, regardless of how easy it is for you to get to a top of the line, wound care specialist or surgeon or ambulatory surgical center? And so it's about diversity. And I would say, socioeconomic class does map to racial disparities too, but we looked at one being kind of synonymous with the other. And they've looked at this in other areas, which is if you can target something being affordable and effective, that's going to kind of take care of both, whether you're poor and white, poor and black. It's the same segment of the population, which is just underserved completely.
Right.
And that's really, I think, why we're different, is we look at underserved doesn't have to factor into what we're doing. And then there's what does it look like from within our team, right? And so we're different from other startups. One, because we're not in Silicon Valley or one of these other metropolitan hubs. We're here in Sarasota. But diversity for us means, yes, we have a team that does have more women than men. That wasn't on purpose, and it wasn't by accident. When I do hiring, I find who is best for our team, who is best for our mission and our culture, who is curious and creative, and team focused, innovative, and the phrase "that's not my job" does not belong in our company. So I look for those qualities, and as it turns out, we do have a diverse team. It's racially diverse, it's diverse in age group, in background, in life experience, in education level, but it, in a weird way, that not on purpose aim to allow diversity has led to unity, incredible unity, more unity than I've seen working in companies where everybody happens to look the same and nobody gets along. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I've seen it in action because I've gotten to know your team. And I will say this, Sarah, your passion is so exceptional. And it's part of what I think our listeners will probably, if you study successful leaders and innovators, it is one of those success traits that you care so deeply. You care about the mission, you care about your team. What are you most proud of when you look at the entire scope of your work and your role? What are you most proud of?
Are you asking personally or for Omeza?
I want to know personally, yeah.
I kind of feel like, I've proven myself wrong in a good way. And so I guess that's what I'm most proud of, and it may continue to be true, which is really getting to the other side of I'm not what I think that I am in all of those areas has led me to think, okay, there really may not be other areas that I couldn't tackle if I thought it was important. And for me, I think that's where the passion comes, is that, I'm willing to push through relearning high school math or, learning how manufacturing works if I think it's important and I think it aligns with a personal mission. And I'd say that kind of tracks to what I'm most proud of too with Omeza, which is, going through a couple of capital raises and building a team. I haven't lost our North Star, which is why are we doing it? If we get one life and we say, how am I choosing to spend this time? Is it worth it? Am I proud every day of what I'm doing? And I believe what I do matters. I believe what we do matters. And I think that leads to really great work and exceptional feats of bravery and courage and stepping outside the comfort zone for anyone. And I see it from my team every day. I know that every day they get things done that I don't even know about until later because they're doing it for the right reason. They're pushing. All of a sudden I'll be like, wait, you guys are still working? It's 8:45 on a Friday. And they're like, no, it's fine. Right. Because they're so invested and proud of what they're doing because they're in it. They're mission driven. So I think that's
yeah. And it makes sense, Sarah. Your passion with, a social impact mission that changes lives, contributes to healing and innovation in healthcare. There's so much respect I want to pay to you and your team because I know how hard you're working. I know how much you care. I also know you admitted to only sleeping 4 hours a night through the grad school years. And Sarah, like so many, was working full time and putting herself through USF MBA program. So now you're president and COO of this innovative company. How many hours a night do you sleep now? And how are you preventing what we all talk about, which is the burnout risk of driven leaders?
6 hours of sleep a night. Yeah. Which is glorious.
Yeah, better than more.
Yeah, and what I at first I thought I would not get burnt out, and honestly, so it's been about 2.5 years that I've been at Omeza, and for the first year I thought, I love this so much, I won't get burnt out, it's magical, and that's not true, at least for me. So in the last year in particular, I have started taking on new hobbies that are really intense, that aren't, because my hobbies beforehand looked like, reading and TV and going out to eat with friends and all of that, but they weren't enough to like turn off my brain. And so I've taken on some intense hobbies that it's meditative. Honestly, like really hot yoga, really hot, intense, like you versus the mat, room full of people, not now, there's COVID-19, there's not a lot of hot yoga happening right now.
At home.
But it's intense enough for it to be like a complete mental reboot. Same thing, I got into paintball. A good friend of mine kept saying, oh, you should play paintball. And it really, it's like the kid inside of me. And when you're playing paintball, it's only then, only now. And so that has really helped me be able to balance, pause, take a look. And then on the other side of it, that's when Monday morning, my team can always tell when I've had that kind of weekend, because Monday morning I'm like, all right, I saw this thing and also this in this area, and here's this article, and last night and all, and they're, you know, but I see that also works the same way with my partners, you know, with Chip and with Tom, and the rest of the executive team. And it's a good balance that you see throughout the organization, which is we respect each other's need to completely check out. And that's the other advantage of having a small team, is that we can decide that's important, that's critical. It's not the push till you fall over and you can't give anymore.
Right, and you're communicating. It's a healthy team. You're communicating with one another and supporting one another when you turn the off switch on, which is critical. So Sarah, we're going to wrap it up. I wanted to ask you, for our listeners, hopefully we have listeners of all backgrounds tuning in, what one piece of advice would you offer, particularly to a female entrepreneur or someone wondering if they could go into business, but just not sure if they're really cut out for it?
I would get to know other people who are maybe like one step ahead of you on the path. You know, we have a lot of exposure between television and social media and blogging and podcasting to people who are maybe 10 steps ahead, 20 steps ahead. And that can be intimidating. How do I get from where I'm at, working a mid-level or entry-level job, to TED Talk? But if you start to find people who are 1 or 2 steps ahead, they can say, you know, this is how you just get through that one next step in your career. And that's why I said, you know, during my talk, anybody who's thinking going back to school, if that's that one next step, I can help you. I can, the secret is all of your laundry has to be the same color so you can wash it all together. You know, just one of it, you know, but
grad school hack.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it's about having somebody who's accessible, or a lot of people who are accessible. And that comes through events like the ones that you host here. It's finding people, like kind of finding a tribe. Of people who inspire you just to take that one step. Because if you look at it all, like it's 50 steps, 100 steps, but if it's just that one step, if it's just, well, I'm just going to study for the entrance exam, or I'm just going to take a look or take a class, that's where you put your toe in the water, and it's not as scary. The other piece of advice I'd say is, if you're thinking about it for a couple of weeks over and over again, don't ignore that.
Yes.
Do it.
I love that. I love that. Listen to that inner voice.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Sarah, what does a future look like for Omeza? Where are you guys headed?
Well, so right now our focus is on chronic wound care. And the thing that we're finding, though, chronic wound care it's on the skin. And there are a lot of interesting things that happen if you're able to encourage healing in chronic wounds, and that looks like expansion into other areas. And so what our team is looking at is what is similar to wound care, in that it's underserved, it's not accessible, there hasn't been a right match of efficacy and affordability. Like, where can we also be a game changer? Our has been shown to be pretty incredible and powerful, but we're thinking about how do we move the mark in other critical areas. You know, you develop a lot of interesting products when you're able to heal chronic non-healing wounds in, you know, cosmetics and dermatology and surgical innovations. And so I see that our company is more than just chronic wounds. I see that we're really going to be able to make a big difference.
Excellent. Well, we can't wait to watch you continue to soar and lead. And we want to thank you so much, Sarah, for your insights and sharing your story. And we certainly want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in, and the SoGal Foundation, the Omeza team, My Voice and Visibility Network, and we're really grateful and inspired. So thanks again.
Thanks, Shannon. I just want to say too, I want to thank a lot of the leaders who I mentioned in my talk, because we all get the opportunity because of the opportunity other people give us. And so between Tom and Chip, who took a chance on me, and some of the other mentors I've had, and then Shannon, I know the chance that you've taken on people in your world, that's huge. We do this together. And so thank you also for your part in it.
Well, it's our privilege, and we're excited to continue our partnership. And now, to and through COVID, we are bringing strong voices together, and we can get through it. So thanks again, and thank you to everybody, and we'll see you soon.